Hello, all. I hope you're having a blessed Sunday no matter what you're doing. Before I get into our read, it will be chapter 16 for those who you are following along. Chapter 16. Since I don't have any children and I don't miss them, can't miss something you don't have, but I never wanted any anyway, if the truth be known. And with my marriage, they weren't certainly conducive. But I was a daughter who had a great mom. And I want to tell you about my mom, and I want to tell you about Mrs. Mintz. I'm going to spend a few minutes about that. I was a really awful kid, and I was a lousy teenager, and rebellious, obnoxious, troublesome, truant, ran away from home, stole money, was caught smoking in the bathroom, flunked classes, and my teachers couldn't understand why I was so awful. I just didn't like school, and I wanted to be out doing something else. I didn't want to be in Troy, New York, and I didn't want the life my parents had. It was simple to me. Mommy understood that. And no matter what happened, and no matter what I did or how many times I was in trouble, she just looked at me with those eyes, and she was so beautiful. And she would just look at me, and she loved me. She loved me unconditionally. After Jeff passed, and I was blessed for several years, for many years through our marriage, that I was able to spend time with Mom. But then after Jeff died, I really got to spend the next 10 plus years with the parents up in Troy. I was able to go back and forth from Boca. And it was about 6 weeks after Jeff passed, and I had taken care of all our affairs here in the business and finally mustered it up and know I knew how to see my parents. So Daddy picked me up at the Albany airport, and as I walked up the stairs to their apartment, get your Kleenex ready, kids. As I walked up the stairs to the apartment, there was my little mom, about 80 then, good health, standing outside of her door, her apartment, and she just went, shh. I knew then. I didn't have to say anything. She didn't want to hear anything. She just wanted to comfort me. She wanted to put her arms around me and say, "You're home now. It's okay." And as I went in the door, Daddy took my bags, and I went in the door, and I put my head in my mom's lap. She just stroked my hair. I didn't have to say much. The whole visit. She just knew what I'd gone through. But I know the other part of my mom loving me is not just because I was really, by today's standards, I probably either would have been dead, in jail, major drugs. But I know one thing also with my mom. I was really living my mom's life. If that can happen. My mom loved Jeff, and she knew that he made me laugh. He was handsome and classy. She was really grateful that I got pregnant by him, because there could have been a whole bunch of other people. She was really glad. So, all through those years, and I was traveling and having that life, Mommy knew I was living her life. I had the life that she wanted. So I know, Mom, I did it well. I did it, as Frank Sinatra said, my way. And I know that you were pleased with me. And even now you're looking down, and I want to show you, if you can see it, the picture of my mom and dad and myself on a Mother's Day when I was up there. But she was a class act. Oh, did she dress and look good, and oh, gorgeous, but sweet, never swore, never said a bad word to anybody. Where I came from, we don't know. So that was my mom's relationship, was incredible, and to this day I adore her. I always say the only two people I miss are Jeff and my mom. Now I'll tell you a little bit about Jeff's mom, Mrs. Mintz. She, when we got married, were not that thrilled that it was me. There were a lot of other girls that he went out with, and I think they would have been happier because they knew I had a reputation, not being as nice and hung around with some wrong people and did a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing, but I was it. And he loved me. I was his best friend. So I got pregnant, and after the miscarriage, I think the folks thought that we would get the marriage annulled. I think you know by now we didn't. And every Shabbat, every Friday night, we'd go to Jeff's synagogue, the Reform one in Troy, and we would have pretzels and ice cream. That was just standard MO. So we got married. I had the baby. I lost the baby. We stayed married, and we'd go on Friday nights to their house, and we'd always have pretzels and ice cream. We were in the kitchen one night, and I knew the time was right that I had to say something. And I said, Mom, I said, he's your son. Nothing can replace that. And he was an adopted only child. They were a little older when they got him, but they adored him. But I know one thing about a bond he had with his mom and dad. You don't come between it. Any wife that thinks you can come between a strong bond between a daughter and her mother, a daughter and her father, don't think you can try it. You'll make so many problems for yourself. I said, Mom, I said, I will love Jeff and I will take care of him, but I'll never come between you and your son. He is your son. He is your son, and you waited a long time for him. And that bond will never, ever be broken. And when Jeff took ill, they were there as usual, supportive. Mrs. Miz was beginning to get dementia, some Alzheimer's. And Jeffrey, toward the end, couldn't put up with it. He was good for a long time with it, but as she started to repeat herself, and she started to really get on his nerves because he couldn't handle very much those last few weeks, months. So I would take Mom out, and she adored me even more, even though she didn't understand maybe some of it, she knew. And Daddy adored me, his father, because I took such good care of their son and what I did. So I would take her out on the catwalk just to get her out of the house so Jeff could spend time with his dad. And then when he passed and we had the memorial service, I know one thing, that her Alzheimer's had gotten much worse. But I can tell you that that day of his memorial service, she knew it was her son. She knew it to the depths of her soul. But I had 25 years with him. They had 47. And I had my parents too. I have no loose ends in my life. I have no loose ends. Everything has been tied up so neat and tight. I will tell you today, it's not too late to tie up your loose ends and say, I love you to your mom or your dad. And she goes, I've been crying, Tammy Faye, she's just like Tammy Faye Baker, always crying. But it isn't too late. I'm glad nobody called me today to wish me a happy Mother's Day, and I didn't go to church. I didn't want to be around anybody, so nobody called, and I didn't have to wish anybody a happy anything. It was the last time I wished somebody a happy something. It was the worst thing in my world. I thought somebody was pregnant, and I learned this years and years and years ago. I went up to this girl, and I said, congratulations on the baby. When's the baby due? She says, I'm not pregnant. I learned right then, I don't say congratulations, I don't wish you a happy birthday unless I really know it's a good one. I don't happy Mother's Day, I don't happy anybody. And then people would say, well, why don't you ever wish somebody a merry this and a happy that? Because I don't know what that is. And I'm not going to do it anymore because I know one thing. After the last couple of years, a lot of you have been through, and what you've been through in your life may not be happy. And it's okay. Now, hello, it's me again. Mother, Daddy, you have served a tremendous purpose, and you are there with me right now, Mommy. Okay, I'm going to get into our read, and I know most of you, oh dear, I didn't put the lightning on, did I? Oh, there it goes, time to read. And I know a good percentage of you are going back over from the beginning. God, I look better in the light. I know that many of you, and don't deny it, are intrigued by this, and you're going back to the beginning because I count your views. May have been 2 one day, then there's 14, and then there's 20, and some episodes may not get you as many, Susan, but people are watching. Hello. Those of you who are watching, those of you who want to give up, and I'm saying, don't. But I am a great storyteller. Told a lot of them. Today's was good, but I had to recognize my mom and Mrs. Mintz. Wonderful women, and I'm proud to have said that they were in my life. All right, we're going to continue now with chapter 16. Jeff comforted me, I comforted him, and we comforted each other. Just remember another thing, holidays are not all about chocolates and candy and cards. It can be as simple as a hug, a hello, a phone call, which I stress, and just saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I screwed up. Moms, tell your kids, I did the best I could. I didn't know anymore. Just make it better, because when it's over, I've seen it at hospice, when it was too late when kids showed up, and the guilt they had, and the things they told me that they shoulda, coulda, bump. And that would have been a swear word, except I'm trying not to. Bump. All right, I'm going to start one paragraph, and then we begin again, because this is really important today. I said that since Jeffrey had taken ill, that there were 2 words that I found I used very frequently. And when I looked up their meaning, I found that these words could mean the same thing, or they were interchangeable. I even got dressed up for you today. Comfort, now these are the 2 words. When I looked up their meaning, I found out that these words were interchangeable. The words were comfort and support. Comfort, as a verb, means to give hope, to console, or show sympathy and compassion in times of fear or grief. Are you comforting someone today, or are you comforting yourself? Do that. You can comfort yourself. Give hope to yourself, console yourself, show sympathy to yourself, and give compassion to yourself in times of fear or grief. Comfort is a noun, means a state of ease or well-being, encouragement, help, or support. Are you also comforting yourself as a noun, meaning trying to stay in a state of ease or well-being, encouragement, help, or support? Are you doing this for yourself? Because other than that, too, if you're not good for you, you will not be good for anybody else. And that is the truth. We will get into that. We're going to get into so much more. We got 8 more wonderful chapters. So comfort and support can be a noun or a verb. They can mean the same thing, or they're interchangeable. And over the years, we shared these meetings many times, both together and independently. At times, we were uncertain which one of us was the patient or caregiver. And until the situation presented itself, we never knew which one would be the stronger of the 2. As partners in a marriage, I think I did some counseling yesterday. As partners in a marriage, there were times when we needed to comfort each other. If our marriage was a give and take, there were times when one of us gave more than the other did. The words commitment and marriage mean sharing both the best and the worst of times. Then we definitely unconditionally comforted and supported each other through the difficult period. And whether we were giving or receiving comfort, both of us did a lot of both. That's where I stopped. I watched a movie today, What We Had, and it's about Blythe Danner has Alzheimer's. They make movies about Alzheimer's and cancer, and they make movies about a lot of things. There'll be movies about COVID coming out eventually. But my book and my story is about HIV. It's about commitment to love. And love is just that. It's a commitment. And in 40 years, nothing has changed with HIV other than thank God for the meds and thank God for everything that's come along that Jeffrey didn't have access to. But love is love. Commitment is commitment. And I don't care if it's who it is. They make movies. In the 90s, they made movies. There was Philadelphia, which I couldn't watch. I went out of the theater hysterical. And wouldn't I love to see in this series Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington and Antonio Banderas make cameo appearances in Committed to Love? Wouldn't that be incredible 30 years later? The other one was Forrest Gump. I couldn't watch that. And the music was played during some other time, and I couldn't handle it. AIDS, she died from AIDS. And then there was Matthew McConaughey and Dallas Buyers Club, who won the Academy Award. One day, Susan Mintz and Committed to Love will be told, and it won't be about a woman who lost and loved and went on under the pillows, taking pills to get through her life. It's about a woman who said, I loved, I lost, but I had hope, I have faith, and I speak for everybody out there who's ever loved and lost and who journeyed through hope and faith. That's what my story's about. Yes, HIV is the issue, and there will be a story made about HIV and my love for him. But all these years later, you will know a woman who loved and committed. And that's what I'm telling you today. Love is love, and commitment is commitment. But there needs to be more movies about HIV and keep it in the media somehow. And that's what bothers me, because there are meds. There's pharmaceutical houses pumping them out so quick, because it's long-term now, because people are living so long. Why make movies about HIV? The Normal Heart. Mark Ruffalo was brilliant. What an incredible series. Angels in America. Roy Cohn. He didn't have liver disease. He died from AIDS. Why aren't there some movies that keeps, and stories like mine, that keeps HIV front and center? It's not gay, it's not straight, it's not any one thing. It's love. We could use a really good knockdown, drag down love story right now, and I'm it. So one of you out there, start calling the media and telling them, I got a love story that we need to talk about and keep HIV out there. Amen. All right, I stopped yesterday there, and we are going to read. Oh, wonderful. I said, during your illness, nothing was going to be easy, predictable, or consistent. As we continued learning how to cope with this time, I compared it to an endless dance of heightened emotions and supercharged feelings. That explanation gave me something I could picture and base my feelings upon. The choreographer of this dance was love. Oh, I gotta say it again. I compared this time to an endless dance of heightened emotions and supercharged feelings. That explanation gave me something I could picture and base my feeling upon. And while I remember, is anybody else, you Google, you find me one other person who's reading her book, her autobiography, her memoir online on Facebook. Find me one other person. I'm setting a trend. I am making this possible for others to start doing it. I should be on the news for doing something no one else is doing and setting a trend and saying, do it. If you don't have a publisher or you can't get anybody to look at anything, read your book. Brilliant. God gave me that idea. So, the choreographer of this dance was love. We were the partners dancing through this time with the feelings of comfort and support guiding us both separately and together. One of us led, keeping the best to be an emotional rhythm, while the other partner followed. God, this is so good. I'm going to reread this later. At other times, our roles changed, and the leader became the follower. We continued to alternate our emotional strengths and weaknesses. Many times, as we danced as a team, we knew the steps and followed each other's leads. We were totally aware of each other's feelings, knowing when to hold each other, console one another, or perhaps leave each other alone. However, there were times when both of us remained motionless, though the music continued. We practiced a lot during this time, and the more involved we got with the illness, the better we were. Yeah, the more we got involved, the better we were. Whether we danced emotionally together, apart, or sometimes not at all, it was our dance of life for 2 years with AIDS. As we questioned our ability to continue performing during this marathon time, it was our comfort and support that gave us the strength to go on. I know some of you are watching. Don't give up. Don't give up. You don't know how the dance and the music ends. From 1981 through 1992, that's when AIDS first, I heard about it and we started on this journey until we learned that rationalizing was a very effective way for us to comfort each other. Rationalizing is an amazing way to deal with your life. Rationalizing worked because we were able to find a comfortable place to store our hard-to-face, unresolved issues. I know a lot of you are doing that. If we didn't have to face a problem, then we wouldn't have to solve it. With many of our friends in Houston, we lived in Houston then, in a very artistic Montrose area of Houston. With many of our friends in Houston dying from AIDS, we knew this disease threatened our lives. Yet we continually rationalized your lifestyle, your bisexuality, and your lovers. I told you that you couldn't get AIDS because you were, quote, married to the perfect homemaker, end quote. You said you were too healthy, happy, and had everything in life to live for. You laughed, saying it wasn't in our future because we were going to grow old together. And we were. We talked about the subject, supported and comforted each other, and always managed to put it out of our minds. But we were deceiving ourselves because this disease was never, ever out of our minds. I don't care what your circumstance. When you've been through trauma or you have something that really you don't want and that's hurt you to the core, when you have been deeply, deeply scarred, you can rationalize it and try to keep it back up here, but it always surfaces in some way. It always comes forth. We were deceiving ourselves because this disease was never out of our minds. All we did was give ourselves a false sense of security. We learned how to tuck the issue neatly away in a private place that enabled us to live with it. Why should we worry about something that might never happen? But I never comforted you more than on June 19th, 1992, when you were diagnosed. As you faced your mortality with this deadly disease, you needed to know your quality of life and dignity were always my priority. As Jeff faced his mortality with a deadly disease and gravely ill, he needed to know his quality of life and dignity were always my priority. You continually said, quote, Susan, no matter what happens, please make sure I die the way I lived, period, end quote. Yes, some of you are saying, I can't do this anymore. This woman's ripping my guts out. I want a good sci-fi job. I want something crazy. I want a cowboy movie. I want to not deal with this anymore. Good. Goodbye. For those of you that want a notebook, who want a Titanic of love stories, for those of you who can grit it and go through life and deal with your life effectively as I have, at least I think I have. This book says I must have because 30 years later I'm still here. Don't deceive yourselves, and don't feel sorry for me. And if you don't want to get my book, read my book, or go to my website, I'm at a point where I don't care, because I know I'm talking to those that want it. And it's not anger, it's just, and I'm not frustrated. I'm so happy to do this, but I know that I'm talking to someone out there. He said, Susan, quote, no matter what happens, please make sure I die the way I lived. You needed my physical comfort when your fever spiked to 104 degrees. I wrapped extra blankets around your shaking body and laid on top of you until the fever broke. You needed my emotional support as I held you in my arms, reassuring you that one day you would feel better. I hope a lot of you are crying your eyeballs out. I don't care if you had the best day in the world. I hope when you go to me and you hear this or you read some of my stuff, I hope you cry. I hope you cry like you've never cried before. And I hope I bring out feelings in you suppressed. Happy Mother's Day. I said it. You needed my emotional support as I held you in my arms, reassuring you that one day you would feel better. I comforted you when I told you I loved you and that we would fight this disease together. And you needed my support the most when I said I would never let anything happen to you. You needed my words of encouragement, the strength of my body and mind, and my unconditional commitment to you. I know, my darling, that you would have done the same for me. How's that? You deal with that? Would your husband or your wife or your significant other or your partner go through cancer with you, through all the chemo and the radiation and the issues? Would they stick with you with Alzheimer's when they didn't know you, when you didn't know them? Or would they stick with you through a long-term illness when you wanted to run out the door screaming because you couldn't take it anymore? Would you still be there and do it to the very end? Many of you would, many of you wouldn't. I got just one more paragraph and then I'll stop because you've had enough for today. I haven't. I could read forever. As a comforting wife and supportive friend, the most horrible times for me happened when I fell apart in front of you. However, these were the times that enabled me to open up the most and be honest about my feelings. Eventually, my breakdown weaknesses gave me strength. That's where the writing also helped, though. Once I allowed myself to face my humanness and fragility, I became more effective and supportive for you. I started to understand the fact that my strength, determination, and confidence would continually be tested. I realized I might not be able to live up to my own expectations, and I handled my life as two separate women. I had two different personalities and conducted myself accordingly to the role I had to play. You might think this woman's got several personalities right now, and I've always said I do, but I'm a storyteller who can flip you like this and change subjects. Here I am, that I had two different personalities, proud of it, two different personalities, and conducted myself accordingly to the role I had to play. As Susan, your friend, I was confident, controlled, and always in command of the situation. The 3 C's: confident, controlled, and in command of the situation as your friend. When I was Susan, your wife, I was vulnerable, easily affected, and never as strong as I wanted to be. Imagine I'm bearing my soul out here to a world of people that I don't know. And I said yesterday, you don't know me yet. You will one day. You'll remember today. When I was Susan, your wife, I was vulnerable, easily affected, and never as strong as I wanted to be. But as your spouse, I could break down and tell you that I was also afraid. I fell apart so many times as I watched you suffer with this disease. I'd make up an excuse to leave the room because it was too painful for me to watch you try to eat. When I heard you tossing in bed all night, my heart ached. I would be driving along when I'd hear a song that reminded me of something we shared. I would have to pull off to the side of the road because I would get hysterical and wouldn't be able to see through my tears. As couples walked hand in hand on the beach, I knew we would never share this special time again. At times like this, my writing was my comfort and support. You've had enough for today. I thank you all. I don't know who's at the other end now, tomorrow, 6 months from now. But I know I thanked my mom. I thank Mrs. Mintz for giving me her son. And I said what had to be said today. So, to all of you, I will say I hope you had a blessed day and that you are not afraid to love, to say you're sorry. You're not afraid to feel who you are, say who you are. You don't have to perform for anybody. This is not a stage play. This is really not a dress rehearsal. It's live. You don't have tomorrow. You certainly don't have yesterday. Those are songs. Kiss today goodbye and point me to tomorrow. I shall say, God bless you all. And I'm going to love reading this one back to me tonight. Shalom, hello. Shalom, goodbye. And shalom, peace. I hope you have peace tonight. And peace tomorrow. And be kind. Be more patient. And it's not too late to call someone you love and tell them you love them. I'm going to finish up now. God bless you all and thank you.